It was a cold autumn morning, the kind of morning where the fog hangs low like a silent warning. I was sitting in my office, mahogany desk, towering bookshelves, framed degrees from prestigious universities hanging proudly on the walls. To anyone looking in, I was a success, a professor, a published author, an expert in philosophy and ethics. But that morning, I felt something hollow. The knock on my door came like a crack of thunder. Dr. Alden, there's a student here to see you. I looked up from my pile of papers and saw him step into my office. His name was Marcus, top of his class, brilliant mind. But today, Marcus looked different, pale, shaking, eyes darting. Professor, I need to talk. He sat down, voice trembling. What he confessed next shook the very foundation of everything I thought I knew. I can't do this anymore. The grades, the pressure, the expectations. I feel like I'm dying inside. Everyone says I'm the smartest, but I feel nothing. I don't care about any of this. I don't even know who I am. I was frozen. Here was my star student, the one I proudly paraded as a symbol of my teaching success, confessing that despite mastering logic, algorithms, literature, he had no sense of peace, of purpose, of heart. And as he spoke, I felt my stomach tighten, because deep down I saw a mirror, not just of Marcus, but of myself. How many years had I spent feeding minds but starving hearts? How many lectures had I delivered, perfectly structured, intellectually stimulating, yet void of any true meaning? Marcus broke down in front of me, and for the first time in years, I had no words. I excused him gently, promising to talk again soon. But as the door closed, I sat there staring at my reflection in the dark glass window. And in the dead silence of that office, one ancient truth began to echo in my mind. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. I had read that quote by Aristotle 100 times. I even lectured on it, but I never truly understood it. Not until that moment. And if you're still here listening, I invite you, subscribe to this channel because what I'm about to share will take you into the raw, shocking, and life-altering truth behind real education, the kind that can save your soul. Stay with me, subscribe now, because what happened next changed everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of Marcus sitting in my office haunted me. His words replayed over and over like a broken record. Everyone says I'm the smartest, but I feel nothing. As the hours dragged on, I found myself aimlessly scrolling through old books I hadn't touched in years. Books on theology, philosophy, spirituality, the subjects I once dismissed as soft knowledge. But one passage stopped me cold. It was from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 22, verse 37. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. I read it again, and then it hit me. I had spent decades worshiping the mind while ignoring the soul. Suddenly, a terrifying realization swept over me. I was producing brilliant but broken people. Students who could calculate complex equations but couldn't face their own emptiness. Graduates who could debate ethics but couldn't forgive themselves. Young minds trained to analyze but not to love. I needed answers, real answers. So I did something I hadn't done since my youth. I went to church. That Sunday morning, as I entered the old stone chapel, the air was thick with incense. The choir sang softly, and an old pastor stood at the pulpit. His voice wasn't grand, but his words pierced like arrows. He spoke of a man, Jesus, who taught not through grand lectures or intellectual debates, but through stories, compassion, and radical love. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Love your neighbor as yourself. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. As he spoke, I began to tremble, because these were not lessons for the mind alone. These were lessons for the heart. The pastor continued, You see, my brothers and sisters, knowledge without love is like a lamp with no oil. It may look beautiful on the outside, but when night falls, it cannot give light. True education fills both the mind and the soul, for only then can one truly live. I felt as though he was speaking directly to me. Every word shattered another piece of the fortress I had built around my own heart. For the first time in decades, I wept. If you're still with me, my friend, subscribe to this channel, because this story, though personal, is one many of you may silently carry. And what comes next will challenge everything you think you know about success, purpose, and the true meaning of education. The following week, something inside me shifted. I was no longer simply a professor who taught facts. I wanted to heal souls. The next time Marcus entered my office, I saw a different man. Not because he had changed, but because I had. I invited him to sit, but this time I didn't begin with grades or upcoming exams. Instead, I asked him a simple, terrifying question. Marcus, when was the last time you felt joy? He looked stunned. His lips trembled, and then he whispered, I don't remember. And that was the moment I understood. All his knowledge, all his academic triumphs, none of it mattered if his soul was empty. So I told him my story about the sleepless night, the pastor's sermon, and my own realization that I too had been living half alive. I shared how for decades I confused intelligence with wisdom, credentials with character, knowledge with love. Marcus listened in silence. His eyes welled up. Then I said words that felt like confession. Marcus, I failed you. I taught you to feed your mind, but I never taught you to nurture your heart, and I'm sorry. At that moment, he broke down and sobbed. Not from shame, but from relief. For the first time, someone saw him not as a brain, but as a human being. From that day forward, everything changed, not just for Marcus, but for me and for the entire university. I began incorporating not only knowledge, but compassion into my lectures. We started every class with 5 minutes of gratitude. We spoke of failures as opportunities for grace. We studied not only ethics, but forgiveness. And something miraculous happened. Students who were once anxious and hollow began to flourish. Not only did their grades improve, but their lives did too. They built deeper friendships. They found meaning in serving others. They discovered that being alive meant far more than just knowing facts. Months later, Marcus approached me after class. His eyes, once filled with dread, now sparkled with peace. Professor, I finally feel alive, not because of my GPA, not because of my resume, but because I've learned to love again. I smiled, and quietly I whispered the words that had transformed both of us. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. And dear listener, if you have stayed with me until now, this message is for you too. Perhaps you, like Marcus, like me, have chased knowledge, success, and recognition, yet still feel a haunting emptiness. But hear this. Your mind may shine, but your heart is the lamp. And without it, no amount of brilliance will ever illuminate your life. Subscribe to this channel, share this video with someone who may need to hear it, and most of all, begin today not only to educate your mind, but to awaken your heart. Because true wisdom begins here, in the beating, fragile, beautiful core of your soul.